2024 free agency is finally underway. Lots of big moves, and we're going to talk about all of them here today. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We're your hosts, Calvin Timms and Dale Terry, and we're back covering the 2024 NFL free agency. And it has been a wild week, a very, very good free agency so far. Sometimes they can be a little bit boring out the gate, but this one has definitely held a lot of surprises. There's a lot of players. We already talked about Russell Wilson. We already talked about Kirk Cousins. And today we're going to talk about a lot of the other guys, a lot of the fantasy relevant guys, but it's going to be a good episode. I'm excited about it. Well, hopefully we'll not take you guys too long, but just before we get into it, thank you guys for checking out this video. If you are new, the way that we're going to break this episode down, we are going to talk about all the fantasy relevant players for Dynasty, for redraft, really. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of one and the same. But we're going to talk about their value, and then we're also going to talk about what we would be willing to give up in terms of picks or players, things like that. So we're going to try and give you guys actionable advice as well, not just talk about, player X went to team Y and what are your thoughts? Well, we have no idea because we're not going to, we don't know how the coaches are going to use these guys. We're going to give you guys fantasy relevant advice on what to trade for these guys and things like that. But before we get into that, Dale, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really good. It's been a wild week in free agency. I know that a lot of people really love like the NBA free agency, but personally, I love the NFL free agency. I think it's a lot better. I think it's more intriguing, and there's more actual. I mean, like even though we're going to talk about a lot of the bigger signings, like these small signings are incredibly important to these teams.
Yeah, for sure. There's every single position. I mean, there's so many players that get moved. And if you saw the thumbnail, that the great switcheroo, hopefully it goes well. But a lot of the times it does not go as well as you kind of hoped it would. So there's a lot of movement, and yeah, it's going to be a good time. Before we jump into the analysis, one last call for you guys. If you can, please subscribe to the video. The podcast is available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Google, anywhere that podcasts are found. If you want video, go to Rumble, go to YouTube, follow us over there. If you just want the audio to listen to our melodious tones, I think that's the word. I'm butchering it probably. But you can listen to it on Apple, Google, Spotify, anywhere like that. So make sure you guys check us out. While you're there, please subscribe to the channel. If you can, leave a comment. We love to hear from you guys. We like to respond to the comments as well. We like just helping you guys out and talking over stuff with you guys. So hit us up with any comments you guys might have, and like the video as well. It just helps it get out there to more people, and we are trying to grow the channel always as usual. So last year we grew quite a bit in that first kind of real YouTube year, and we're hoping to continue on that success this year, and we can't do that without you guys. So thank you guys very much. If you can, again, just do all those things and helps the podcast grow. So we appreciate you guys. Now, let's jump into it. We already talked about Kirk Cousins in a standalone video, Kirko Cousins to the moon. Atlanta is looking very good. They did make a couple additional signings this last couple of days, but we'll save that for when we get down to it here in just a little bit. A couple other quarterbacks. So we're going to go position by position. We're going to go through running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers. If you want your offensive line breakdowns, we're not the guys for that, so don't ask me. Let's start with Gardner Minshew. It's kind of based on a value of the contract sorting here. So that's the only way we're sorting these guys. It's not, we're not doing it completely randomly, but Gardner Minshew goes over to the Las Vegas Raiders. Everyone is saying, oh, he's a starter. He's a starter. 2 years, $25 million, 12.5 guaranteed, or per year, 15 guaranteed. I'm not too thrilled about this. Like, everyone is saying, like, oh, Gardner's going to be the starter now. $12.5 million is starter money. Guys, these quarterbacks are getting paid $50 million a year to be a starter. Like, 12.5 is nothing. Sam Darnold got $10 million, and we'll talk about him here in just a second, but he got $10 million for 1 year to be a backup, basically, or a bridge or whatever. Gardner Minshew is not guaranteed a starter's role. This is the same contract that basically Mitch Trubisky and Tyrod Taylor got the last couple of years. It doesn't mean anything. It's all front-loaded. They can cut him after this year. I will say, having 8 million guaranteed next year is kind of a big number for Gardner, but he is also a
Mhm.
very good backup quarterback as well. Do you kind of share those thoughts there?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I love Gardner Minshew. I think
He's fun.
he's a great personality. Yeah, he's a great personality. I do think he's a good quarterback. I just don't
Hmm.
think he's necessarily starter worthy. You know, I don't really know what the Raiders are gonna plan on doing, but either they're gonna draft a player or they might even trade for somebody near and dear to my heart, but I don't really want to get into that. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, we'll
So
see. We'll see. I mean,
yeah, so yeah,
the draft is going to be important, and we'll talk
yes,
about the one guy, the kind of the elephant in the room here after we get through these quarterbacks, because you can't talk about quarterbacks without talking about Justin Fields. We'll save him for the end, and we'll kind of get into him in just a minute. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the NFL draft, because obviously you have all the teams that need quarterbacks still. You know, the Giants want to get out from Daniel Jones.
yep.
You know, the Falcons are out of that now. They've got Kirk Cousins. The Tennessee Titans are kind of a sneaky one where I could see them wanting. They have the number 7 pick, and nobody is putting them on quarterback. Like, I get it, they like Will Levis, but all the moves that they're doing basically say we want
It's
to compete
it's
now.
it's very win now. Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
that,
So it's
and I think it's interesting if they view Will Levis as that because I think a lot of people don't.
right. That's the big question, is because, you know, obviously they have the number 7 pick. It would not take much to go from 7 to 4 or 7 to 5 or whatever just to try and get one of those guys. They're sneaky, but yeah, there's a lot of teams that still definitely need the top 3. You know, definitely Chicago, because they're supposedly moving on from Fields, the Commanders and the Patriots. But right there at 10 or 11, 12, and 13, you've got the Broncos, the Vikings, and the Raiders, in whatever
Mm.
order they are. I think it's Raiders or Vikings, Raiders, Broncos, I think is how it goes. All 3 of those teams need a quarterback still, right? In terms of long term. So it's going to be interesting to see what Vegas does, whether they do get aggressive, go for a Fields or someone like that. You know, Sam Darnold went to Minnesota. He's the next guy we're going to talk about here. 1 year, $10 million. They need a long-term quarterback, and there's so many teams that need these quarterbacks, and these guys are just out of that range to go and get them. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing for quarterback long-term, because I think you agree with me, Sam Darnold is not the answer long-term.
He is not. No.
If you listen to Chris Sims with PFF, or no, he's with NBC Sports, he loves Sam Darnold. He's still like, he's standing so hard for Sam Darnold. He thinks
I
he's going to be the
think
long-term starter.
I think Chris Sims has a hard on for a lot of players that aren't any good anymore. So that's beside the point.
I remember when Chris Sims was still back with Bleacher Report, and they had his show with Adam Lefkoe back in the day, their football show.
Mhm.
And Sam Darnold was like one of the first guests that they ever had on that show. And I swear that he completely just like fell in love with Sam Darnold after meeting him in person. Like, I
Oh, he probably did.
swear.
Yeah.
Because he says the same stuff about Kenny Pickett, who he met last year at the or a couple years ago at the combine. It's like, Kenny Pickett's bad, bro, like really bad.
Right.
So he picks some odd guys to stand for. So Sam Darnold, I'm not that thrilled. I don't think he's going to be the long-term starter. We'll see what ultimately
He's
happens
not.
here. But I think that if I had to put money on a team in a landing spot, Minnesota's going to go hard in the paint for J.J. McCarthy
I agree.
or Drake May, one of the two.
Yep.
They could be slow playing the Drake May love, hoping that he falls a little bit, that he's the number 4 guy. But I could see them going hard in the paint for one of those 2 guys, just based on the ownership and the leadership there in that front office. So nothing really exciting. None of these guys really, other than Gardner, are that exciting. You've got Jacoby Brissett, 1 year, $8 million to New England. He's a bridge quarterback. He's a good, solid bridge. He might be fantasy viable for a few games this year. You know, if
Yeah,
you're in a
probably will be.
really tough pinch in a super flex, you know, you could probably get Jacoby Brissett and roll him out there for 4 or 5 games, having decent success and knowing that he's got a very limited time frame. But from a super flex standpoint, you know, he's interesting, at least like 3rd round pick maybe. Are you willing to give up a 3rd or a 2nd for either Darnold or Minshew in a super flex league?
I would do like a late second for like Minshew. You know, if you have like the 211, for instance, you know, I would throw a trade out there because I do think he's if I might wait a little bit. I would feel better about Darnold maybe a
Yep.
little bit, um, I do think, Darnold and Brissett probably have a better chance of starting, the whole season. I love Minshew and I love what he can do, but I I think he's going to get replaced pretty quick.
Yeah,
Um,
I could see that
so
as well. Darnold, I'm not sending anything for Darnold. He can rot on
right.
whoever has
I
him
mean,
team.
I might throw like a third for Darnold. That's about it.
Yeah, and then the rest of these guys, Mariota signs with Washington, Trubisky signed a 2-year with Buffalo. These are all backup deals at this point.
Mhm.
Drew Lock to the Giants, Jameis Winston to Cleveland, Mason Rudolph to Tennessee, which was that's kind of interesting, but it's a 1-year, $2
Right.
million. And then obviously Russ, we talked about him on
hmm
a standalone video. Only 1-year vet minimum, but it's more to screw it to the Broncos than it is to that he's not worth a decent contract.
Right.
So, yeah, none of these other guys I'm really willing to invest anything in. They're the pull the cord in case of emergency guys in case you lose
Yes.
your starter.
Agreed.
So let's talk
Agreed.
about the obvious elephant in the room, which is Justin Fields. And Justin Fields has not gotten a landing spot yet. And everyone talked about how, and I put this out on Twitter earlier today, props to the Bears because I still have no idea what they're doing with the number 1 overall pick. Like, legitimately, they've played this very, very well from a front office standpoint because I
Yeah.
don't think anybody knows what they're doing with the 101. I, at this point in time, believe that they are trading that pick. And the reasoning why is because it never really made sense for this front office and this head coach to get Caleb Williams. They're on a hot seat. They have to win this year.
Now. Yes.
And if Caleb Williams has any rookie struggles, yes, you can always try and sell that to ownership like, hey, he started off rough and we're improving him and coaching him up and everything. But it never really made sense because if he struggles and he doesn't show signs of improvement, basically he doesn't want to be there with that coaching staff anyway. Like, he has the full power to tank out this coaching staff to get whoever he wants to come in there next year. And they have to know that. They're not stupid people that they're going to say, oh, we trust Caleb 100%, right? So I think that they're going to trade the pick. I think they're going to trade the pick to probably the Giants. If I had to make a money guess right now, that's who they're going to end up doing it with. Maybe they trade back to 2 and then they do another trade back from there. But
Right.
I think that they're going to stick with Justin Fields. The fact that they have not moved him yet is just,
It's odd.
it's very odd.
It's odd for the situation they're in and the quarterbacks that are just flying off the market. So
Sam
yeah,
Howell got
it's
traded
just
for a
odd.
3rd, 4th round pick swap today to the Seahawks to be a backup, right? So I get it. There's a lot of people that don't like Justin Fields. I understand it. He has not been what we want him to be from a quarterback perspective. I understand that. We don't know how much of that is coaching. We don't know. And everyone's saying, oh, well, look at CJ Stroud. He was really, really good. Yeah, look at Bryce Young. He was really, really bad. And he was supposed to be better than CJ Stroud from a processing quarterback standpoint. So, these guys aren't always. Coaching matters. Coaching 100% matters, guys.
100%.
And I do think that they believe in him. He's taken steps to get better over all 3 years that he's been a starter so far.
And on top of that too, like the locker room loves Justin Fields and what he's doing. So
I mean, shoot, they just signed DeAndre Swift, and he said that Justin Fields is my guy. He literally said that today, right?
Yes. So it's very telling how the players feel about him, and if the coaches and the GM wants to keep the locker room, like they need to try to do things that I'm not saying just to appease the players, but like to create a winning culture because the Bears
they need it, man.
They really need it, and I really want the Bears to do well because they're in our area and we have the unfortunate pleasure of watching them.
I mean, shoot, I grew up right outside of Chicago, man. Like I grew up in the region of Indiana, which is basically Indiana, Chicago, right? So
Yep.
I've always had a love for Chi-Town, and I will root
Yep.
for the Bears forever. They just suck at all major sports for the last 20 years, so not fun to root for them. But yeah, I think that the Bears are going to keep Justin Fields. It just makes too much sense at this point in time.
It does.
And anyone that's thinking that, they're going to draft Caleb and keep Justin Fields is nuts, man. When
I
all the
know
starter,
that is
like when
crazy.
the entire roster wants Justin Fields to be the starter, how the hell are you ever going to get Caleb Williams to even play a snap? Like, even if Justin struggles, like the locker room's not going to, he'd have to lose the entire locker room, which is not going to happen, guys. So it's madness to suggest that at all. So, that said, I do believe that we are in an amazing buy window for Justin Fields. I think that you can buy him for extremely cheap right now, and
Yes.
it is extremely worth it.
Well. I'll give you an example. I have Justin Fields in the league, and this guy offered me Russell Wilson today.
Yep. Oh yeah, people
And
are selling for second round picks. It's
I know,
crazy, man.
I know, and unfortunately for him, like you almost have to hold
Yeah.
and kind of wait it
If you're
out. Like
selling him,
I
if you have Justin
yes,
Fields, hold. Do not sell him, guys. Do
yeah,
not sell him.
yeah.
Everyone's saying he's Trey Lance 2.0. I don't believe it. I really don't. I don't think Trey's career is over by any means either. He's 23 years old, guys. He will have another chance, whether it's on open market or what. But Trey Lance is not done just yet. Now, Justin Fields, if you can get him for a second round pick, a late first round pick, do it, guys. His fantasy value is just too good. We've seen what he can do fantasy wise on the field. So go get Justin Fields. Use this as a buying window to go get him. All right, let's go over to the running backs here. We'll keep it moving. Josh Jacobs signed a 4-year, $48 million deal with the Green Bay Packers, which was very surprising. Did not see this one coming whatsoever. This one was extremely out of the blue, in my opinion. I love it for the player and the team. I think it's a very good signing. What are your thoughts on Josh Jacobs?
I think it's interesting. I don't hate it, and I think for the scheme that the Packers are running, it's perfect for him.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
very run. It's a very run first team. And he is. I think he's a very comparable running back to what Aaron Jones was, and what Aaron
agreed. And
Jones
he's
could
younger,
do.
right?
So yeah, and
Aaron
he's
Jones
younger
was
is the
almost
big thing.
Aaron Jones will be 30 this next season, guys. Like,
Yeah.
he's still good. I get it. But Josh Jacobs is 26. He's 3 years younger than Aaron Jones. That's a huge difference in terms of long-term contracts.
Running back miles.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So Josh Jacobs, they just re-signed AJ Dillon, or they're in the process of re-signing AJ Dillon right now. People are saying that, oh, this hurts Josh Jacobs' value. I don't think so at all.
It doesn't at all.
AJ Dillon's not been good,
and
guys.
right. I was about to say that. I was about to say that. But like we've seen what AJ Dillon has done, and and I saw people on Twitter today saying that like there was life in AJ Dillon's. Like when was there ever life
There was
in
some, like, he was
there was
okay.
some there was some in his first couple years, but it
Yeah.
like we saw him play,
Yeah,
and it
it was
wasn't very good.
it was with Rodgers more, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's not ever going to be what we want him to be, essentially,
No.
right? So Josh Jacobs, he comes in, I think he's got top 12 running back. I actually just moved him up in
Absolutely.
my rankings. We're going to be talking about rankings here probably starting next week, but a little bit of a sneak preview here. Josh Jacobs right now is my number 8 dynasty running back. Like, he's not too old. I think he's in a great position for fantasy relevance. And I think he comes into Green Bay as like the 3rd oldest player on this entire team. Not even
Right,
joking.
which is wild.
This team is so
Right.
young, dude. It's crazy.
So if you're searching for a running back and you happen to stumble upon somebody who has Josh Jacobs, like what would you try to offer them?
Man, if I can get Josh, okay, so here's the question. You go into this rookie class, right? You've got Roma Dunze or Josh Jacobs. Who would you rather have?
I know. I think if you're really if you really need a running back, you have to lean towards Jacobs. Unfortunately, I
think so
don't really
too.
like that. I don't really like that. I like taking the young wide receivers because I feel they have more value. Throughout the a dynasty um, length.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I get it. If you're really needing a running back, I think that's a fair, like the 107, 108. I think that's really about where he's going, like in between like the
Yeah.
106 and 108.
His pick value right now is 106 to 107. So,
Yeah.
T. Higgins or Josh Jacobs. Give me Josh Jacobs all day. T. Higgins is
All
so
day. Yeah.
overrated, guys. It's
He very
insane.
much is.
But
Very
yeah,
much.
Josh Jacobs, I think if you have to give up the 106, that's where it's tough. It's very, very tough. I would wait until you're actually on the clock for that.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
because,
I agree.
if it's Bowers, all right, you can talk me into selling Brock Bowers for Josh Jacobs because it depends where Brock Bowers goes, but the kind of delay on tight end value a little bit there. But Brock Bowers could still be a stud. But if you're talking like Malik, then I'm probably out. I want Malik Neighbors over Josh Jacobs. But again, it's fair in that regard. So, if you can send one of these lower tier wide receivers for him, I'd be all about that. Your T. Higgins or people in that type of range right there. So, all right, another big running back. This one, he's actually getting a little bit more money than the last guy, but Saquon Barkley goes to the Eagles. People are PO'd about this one. I mean, good Lord, Giants fans are salty. I actually kind of love it.
Yeah.
You guys treated Saquon like garbage for years, guys. Like, this dude was the heart and soul of the Giants team. He tried to do a long-term contract last year in this front office. You guys should be so ticked off at your front office because how did they let this happen, man? Like, he's getting paid $12.5 million average per year. Just give him 13, guys. Who cares? Who cares? Right. Like,
well, I think part of it too is that he's 27.
Yeah, who cares though? He's still good.
Well, he is. I don't disagree with that, but like, he has shown that I wouldn't say he's injury prone. I don't think that's fair to say, but
no.
but he definitely has a lot of mileage on it,
He does,
which doesn't
but
help his case.
Here's the thing, like, and for Saquon's perspective, man, going over to Philly, people are not talking about this enough. The Giants have had like a bottom 10 offensive line his last 4 years. Like, it's crazy how bad that offensive line has been. Philly's had a top 5 offensive line for like 6 straight years. So, they lose Jason Kelce, but
which is huge,
there's
for their
rumors
offense
already
as a whole,
that he's
personally.
coming back, which I would not be shocked, man. I would not be shocked.
I've heard that as well.
What the Eagles have done in free agency has been very good. They've signed some very key players to very important positions, and I think that they're going to actually get him to come back for one final push this upcoming year, one final tush push.
Push. I was about to say that too.
But from a fantasy perspective, Saquon going over to Philly from the Giants, I like this a lot. I think he's going to be a lot more productive rushing wise. He's going to take a hit from the receiving aspect though, and that's going to be a bit of a wash.
I think he's going to get. I think he's going to take a hit a little bit all around. I mean, I do understand what your argument's probably going to be is that with Jalen Hurts' running ability, it does free him up for
sure.
These,
that
these
offensive
big
line
runs.
too.
Yeah, it does, and I agree with that. But
we saw
I
DeAndre Swift do it, right? And Saquon Barkley is definitely the better prospect than DeAndre Swift, but we also saw DeAndre Swift didn't get many targets, so that's what's going to hurt him, right? So
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I kind of think the whole Philly offense is going to take a little step back this year, personally.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see for sure.
It is. It will be.
I don't know if they can take much of a step back. They were kind of mediocre this last year, so if anything, they're going to take a step forward back to kind of what they were. But yeah, I don't think this hurts Saquon as much as people are kind of presuming. Here's a question: would you rather have Saquon or Josh Jacobs?
I would rather have Saquon.
Would you? I think I'd rather have Josh Jacobs because I think that they'll incorporate him in the passing game a little bit more. And Jacobs has pretty soft hands. He can do it too, but I think those two are right neck and neck. I think I have Saquon at RB7. So, technically my rankings say that I would take Saquon too, but from a fantasy perspective, I could see the path where Jacobs kind of passes him up just because of the pass catching ability there. So good landing spot for sure. Very, very good. Could have gone much, much worse. People were talking about Houston though. That would have been
That would have been
fun.
wild.
That would have
That'd
been
been
fun.
wild.
All right, next running back here, we got DeAndre Swift going over to Chicago from Philly. 3 years, 24 million, 8 per year. I love this a lot. I really do. People are not happy about this because they have Roschon, they have Khalil Herbert, I believe.
Right. I mean, I feel they had bigger needs, but I don't hate it personally.
They're
You know,
rich,
I don't.
They have so much money.
Right.
He was the first. He was literally the first free agent signed, though.
Like, I get that.
Did you know that?
He was. Yeah, I know he was. It broke like almost right at noon. So I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think DeAndre Swift could be really fun in this offense.
I agree.
You know,
especially with Caleb or Fields.
Or Fields. You know, either quarterback, he's going to really help him out. So
for sure. If it's Caleb, I do like Swift a little bit more from a fantasy perspective, just because I think Caleb will dump it off to him a little bit more than Fields will. Fields has enough experience now in the NFL, and we see this with Lamar all the time. He just doesn't. They don't dump off to their running back because it's either tight end, you know, those intermediate throws to those guys, or it's I'm going to run it. It's not so much I'm going to dump it off to the running back. So I don't love it if Fields is the quarterback as much for DeAndre Swift. I think he'll be fine from a rushing standpoint, but we want those passes, right, in a PPR league. So DeAndre Swift should be very good. What do you think? So going back to Saquon, you think his value is the same as Jacobs, about the 1.6, 1.7?
I would say similar to that. Yeah,
I agree. Again, those guys are a coin flip for me. Like I don't really care which one. So if you can get them over Odunze, it's tight. But if you need a running back, I think these guys could be league winners this upcoming year. DeAndre Swift, what are we feeling on him? You know, would you rather have DeAndre Swift or the number one running back, Trey Benson?
I think I'd rather have Trey Benson. I think that's pretty close, personally. You know, but I think I'd rather have Benson.
Trey Benson is probably going to the Dallas Cowboys at this point in time, so I'd probably have. I'd rather have or Jonathan Brooks. Everyone is linking Texas Jonathan Brooks to the Dallas Cowboys, which would not actually shock me.
I think I'd rather have either one of those guys.
Okay.
You know, I do like Swift, but he's kind of past his prime, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he's only 25, but yeah, he's just never been able to carve out the role that we kind of expected for him in the NFL. Right. Let's roll through the next two guys. The next two guys are very interesting. Tony Pollard, Dallas to Tennessee. Goes with Tajay Spears and this whole renovated offense. Like this team, dude, it's crazy what the moves that they've made.
It's very, very, very interesting. Yes,
we might have to do a Tennessee breakdown, just full team breakdown, because it is wild what they've been able to do for this team. And then Devin Singletary goes from Houston to the Giants. Both are 3-year deals. $21 million for Pollard. Singletary got 16.5. Singletary is actually kind of interesting. I like Singletary a little bit more than Pollard personally.
Agreed.
Do you see it the same way?
I'm kind of out on Pollard. I know what he was, and I think he's just going to keep losing a step. And plus, I like Tajay Spears better, and I think he's I think he's going to fit more. I mean, I think they're very similar players.
Right.
Personally.
Right.
So I think that's part of the problem, is that they kind of do the same thing. So what's going to distinguish, you know, Pollard from Spears? I mean, it's just the money at this point.
So are you willing to give a first for either one of these guys?
I'd
be
No, I wouldn't.
I'd be willing to if it's like a late first. Like if you're the champ last year, or you have the champ's pick, you know, the 111, 112, somewhere in that range, I'd be willing to do it. Again, I'd probably rather have Benson or Brooks or Braylon Allen than these guys.
I would rather have all those guys. I think like a early second, you know, like if you give like a 202, 202 to 204, like kind of in that range, you know, like an early second. I wouldn't go first.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I would just rather have the youth on my side for the other guys. Singletary, I'd probably be willing to do the first, the late first, just because, well, we'll see how the draft shakes out. But as of right now, you know, Pollard is competing with Tajay Spears. Singletary has nobody back there. So
yes, nobody. Well, it's Evan Gray. Come on.
Right. So the superstar Evan Gray. But yeah, that's where it's going to be interesting, because if they don't add anybody, man, Singletary could have some very, very good value this upcoming year. So Next guy, Derrick Henry, 2 years, 16 millions. I would take him over all the last three guys. Like, I'd take him over Swift. I'd take him over Pollard. I'd take him over Singletary. He signs with Baltimore Ravens. He is going to run for 2,500 yards this year. It is going to be nuts. Like, Derrick Henry and this offense is going to be a monster, guys. He is going to be a monster. I do not care that he's 30 years old. He has not shown losing a step yet in terms of athleticism. Like, he is still a very good player. Everyone is saying, he kind of, lost a little efficiency the last couple of years in Tennessee. They had a bottom 3 offensive line the last 2 years. It's been terrible. It is absolutely terrible that what Tennessee's been working with on the offensive line. So he goes to Baltimore, who's had a very, very good offensive line. I love this for Derrick Henry. I'm willing to send up to the 109. I'm willing to send up to the 109 for Derrick Henry.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I was going to say the 110. I feel those are pretty comparable. The 109, it's all in the same tier.
It's Brian Thomas Jr. or Xavier Worthy or one of these guys. Yeah, I'd rather have Derrick Henry because the known dominance that he's going to have this upcoming year. So love that signing.
Agreed.
Antonio Gibson goes to my New England Patriots, 3 years, 11.5. How do you feel about that one?
Well, he's either going to be the new James White or he's going to be absolute garbage. So
it's going to be interesting. This one was a confusing signing for me, man. I don't know how to feel about it.
I don't understand it for like a roster building. He
used to be a wide receiver. Maybe he is our solution at wide receiver. Maybe.
I doubt it. So
I doubt it.
I don't hate it because who else is in that room? I mean they do have Ramondre Stevenson, but
he's on the last year of his deal. To be fair,
yeah.
And we're not going to re-sign him. I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely not. So I think it could be interesting. I wouldn't give up a lot for Gibson if I probably wouldn't be looking to get him. I was very excited last year going into it, but this year I'm just like
or Blake Corum.
Blake Corum.
No. I'd rather have Gibson. Well,
I feel
it's tough. I'd rather have Gibson.
I think it's if the landing spot is what I think it will be for Corum, I want Corum.
The Chargers.
Yeah. So,
all right, fair enough. So you're thinking like a mid to late second for Gibson right now. Eckler is the next guy on the list. 2 years, $8 million with the Commanders. This one was
kind of spicy.
That's a weird sign. I don't like it at all. Because Brian Robinson is a good runner, and Austin Eckler is going to be used more as the scat back. Catcher. You've got Cliff Kingsbury, who had James Conner over in Arizona, right? And if you just go back to the time when they used those guys, in my mind, dude, he's going to use Brian Robinson more than Eckler, which is not great.
I think Eckler is going to be whichever quarterback they pick. It's going to be he's going to be their best friend.
Maybe.
That's what I at least that's what I envision Eckler doing.
If it's Jaden Daniels though, man, I don't know. It's just tough.
It'll be interesting. Yeah. That is true. So I think it's interesting. I don't understand it because he's not going to a competitive team right now at least.
Right. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. He's the one guy here at running back, and there's so many running back guys. Like, it's just nuts. The rest of this list will be very fast because there's not really many wide receivers that have signed yet. But Eckler is the one guy where he could be as valuable as Derrick Henry, and he could be as worthless as like AJ Dillon,
DJ Dallas, DJ Dallas. Come on,
he could be completely worthless from a fantasy perspective. We have no idea. So. He's a gamble. I would be willing to spend mid second.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And
Eckler or Gibson. Which one would you rather have? I'd rather have Gibson.
I would probably rather have Gibson, just based on the age too, especially
3 years. So, I don't know. This is a tough one, guys. Let us know down in the comments what you think on Eckler, whether we're crazy on this or not.
Well, in the last thing on Eckler, I think he's kind of a sinking ship from what we saw with LA.
Yeah, if he doesn't get the targets, man,
he's not running like he used to. He's he's about to hit that wall. Well, he's already hit the wall. He's about to fall off the cliff.
Right. He is not a Derrick Henry who is a physical freak of nature, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Eckler, to be fair, is a freak of nature athletically. Like the dude is jacked,
Absolutely,
but
100%.
yeah, he's not a monster like Derrick Henry.
He's just starting to lose. Well, like he's just starting to lose more steps quickly. Is the problem?
Yeah, right. All right, next guy on the list, DJ Dallas, 3 years, 8.5 with Arizona. I don't mind this, but I don't think it's going to impact James Conner too much. James Conner is still the number one, but DJ Dallas is a nice little backup.
Yeah, it could be an interesting stash because of Connor's injury history. Like he was out for what, like
couple
4 to
games,
6 weeks.
yeah. Every year.
It was a few games, and I feel. Yeah, he is, and I also feel that everybody gets really excited to see it's to be able to pick up Arizona's backup, whoever it is going to be. Every year we have that, and I think DJ Dallas, like he's not bad, he's not good, but he's not bad,
Right?
So
yeah, he's just not special, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the next guy we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about two guys because it's one for the other. Zach Moss goes from Indianapolis to Cincinnati, and in doing so, it caused the Bengals to trade Joe Mixon to the Houston Texans, which,
is wild.
For a day there, Dale and I co-own a team in Dynasty, and we have Joe Mixon, and our running back room is decent. I'm not going to lie. We have pretty decent running backs. I was like, oh no, we lost Joe Mixon. Farewell, sir. You served us well these last couple years. And then the next day, he's alive again. And I'm like, holy crap, we got Joe Mixon. Let's go, baby.
And he has legs in Houston.
Right.
That's exciting.
Yep. He's going to catch 75 passes this year. It's going to be nuts.
Well, I would say 60. How about that?
All right, fine. Fair enough. He'll get 75 targets. We'll say that.
Right.
So Zach Moss, I love this for both guys, to be completely honest. I love this for both guys. Indy gets to move on from Joe Mixon, or Bengals get to move on from Joe Mixon. Zach Moss, he was a very solid backup this last year in Indy. Very, very good. Had his moments of splash and explosion. He gets to come over with Joe Burrow. He's a good pass blocker. I think he's probably better than Joe Mixon if I had to put my money on it. That's why they're willing to kind of swap one for the other, because I think they saved like $1 million by doing this move. $1 million. So it's not like it was massive savings.
And for the it's for the Bengals though. That's a lot of money.
Exactly. So. Yeah, saves their owner a ton.
It is for that franchise.
They got to pay for a new practice field someday.
Maybe.
But Zach Moss, from a fantasy perspective, I like it a lot. I think that he's going to be a top 24 running back.
I do too.
I would be willing to send up to like an early second for Zach Moss.
That's what I was thinking too, and I think that's fair value.
I don't think you have to. That's the thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think for right now, I think that's fair value because I think my only worry is if the Bengals draft another running back, which they drafted one last year, and I unfortunately can't remember his name.
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown. Yeah, and Zach Moss is better than Chase Brown. Like I like Chase Brown, but he's 5'9".
Yeah, he's definite difference here.
Yeah, it's definitely different. So yeah, no, I agree, and I've been seeing like consensus. It's a consensus for Moss. Like he's been going, for like a 208. Like around there. Like, would you rather have Zach Moss or Devin Singletary? Because they're going around the same.
Do neither? Okay, so here's the caveat. If neither adds a running back, give me Zach Moss.
Okay, that's fair. So what you're saying at this very moment in time,
yep,
you would go Zach Moss.
I would. Well, no, I take that back. If neither adds a running back, I would go Devin Singletary. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Giants are going to add somebody. So give me Zach Moss over Singletary.
Yeah, I would still go Zach Moss because I still think. I don't think he has the best hands, but I know Joe Mixon did a lot of that, and that's not really Chase Brown's specialty either. Right. So. I can see them dumping it off quite a bit to Zach Moss.
It's very close, though, guys. It's very, very close. And again, I don't think you have to pay this for Zach Moss. So he might be a steal of the lifetime right now. Now, the counterpart, Joe Mixon, goes over to Houston, re-signs a 3-year deal today. I think it's like a decent amount per year. I can't remember the exact contract offhand, but it's a good contract. And what are you willing to give up for Joe Mixon? Because obviously he does have good hands, and he is a quarterback's best friend. Damian Pierce is the only incumbent there in Houston.
Right.
And we saw Devin Singletary, we're talking about him, how good he was last year with CJ Stroud. I could see the exact same thing. I like Devin Singletary, but Joe Mixon is better than Devin Singletary. He is just better.
No, I agree. I mean, it would probably be a late first. Like if you have like the 110, 111, I think that's
okay.
I feel that's a fair value.
Derrick Henry or Joe Mixon?
Derrick Henry.
Would you?
He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. Yeah, he's going to score a lot of touchdowns.
I could see that as well. That's where the range we're in. I could see Mixon being more valuable because he's going to get 75 targets, like legitimately.
Yeah.
And CJ Stroud is not the rushing threat that Lamar Jackson is. Like CJ Stroud's not bad, but he's not going to get 7-8 rushing touchdowns this year like Lamar is. So, again, it's a 50-50 split there. So very, very interesting. All right, the last couple guys here. Aaron Jones goes 1-year deal to Minnesota. I like this for Aaron Jones. I think he's going to be valuable for fantasy. I'm not spending much on him just because of the age. If you can get him for a late second, the Aaron Jones owner is just looking to get younger there. I would do that, but he's 29, guys. He's not an athletic freak of nature, so
he's past his prime. I think he'll be good. He's going to be interesting. He's going to be interesting. I think all depending where they go on quarterback. I think regardless of quarterback, I think he's still going to be decent.
He'll be a good stopgap this year, but I could see him next year having nowhere to go. So
agreed.
Gus Edwards goes 2 years, $6.5 million to the Chargers. I don't really care about this. I know a lot of people are excited, but I still think with you that they're going to add Blake Corum in the draft. So
I agree.
That's pretty much the end of the relevant list here of running backs. There's been a few other re-signings. So lots of running back movement so far, and you can't complain too much there. So we're going to just continue here. We're going to go to the wide receivers. Again, there's not very many here that were signed, a few that are kind of interesting. So we'll start at the top here. Calvin Ridley signs a 4-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. Again, Tennessee, man. I actually like this a lot, and I'm really upset that the Patriots didn't get Calvin Ridley. And
I think part of it was that the Patriots were the betting favorites, and I think Calvin Ridley knew that.
I saw that. Plus 1,800 for him to go to Tennessee. So
right.
No, there's actually the connection. I guess the new offensive coordinator in Tennessee with this new coaching staff was the offensive coordinator under Doug Peterson in Jacksonville last year. So he played with him just last year, and he liked him a lot. So that's why he kind of chose to go over there for similar money to the other two. I like it a lot, whether it's Will Levis or somebody else at quarterback. I think that he's the fantasy wide receiver you want to have in this backfield. I like him more than Hopkins at this point. Hopkins is going to probably have more touchdowns than Ridley, but Ridley's still a good player. We saw this last year in Jacksonville. He was able to get open. Him and Lawrence just never really had that connection. So the question is whether or not Levis is going to be able to be accurate enough to get it to Calvin Ridley all the time. But Levis was decent last year. He was not as bad as he was in college. He kind of showed a little bit of progression last year. So if he can take another step forward, I like it a lot. And you got to remember that the new offensive coordinator and the head coach, the offensive coordinator came over from Jacksonville. The head coach came from Cincinnati, where they had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and everything. So I think that they're going to be able to recreate that a little bit with these guys down there in Tennessee. Any thoughts on Ridley?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Like, I just don't quite understand what Tennessee's doing and like what their game plan is. I think they feel that they can be a winning team, like, a very competitive
AFC
team.
South?
Well, but you also, I don't disagree with that, but I feel the Texans are going to take another.
They should.
Their record's going to be better.
They should.
It should be a little bit better. What they were 9-8.
Yeah,
I think is what they were.
They should.
So
every time we say this
I
about
can see
the
them winning
AFC
a game
South,
or two more. I I don't know. It's a very loaded AFC is the problem.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. It's
So you know,
difficult, but
I don't know how much of a step forward they're gonna take, especially with Will Levis. I think he's capped with what he can do
I kind of
personally.
like it
So
though, to be honest with you, because here's the reason why I like it. If they have a young quarterback, they have a rookie quarterback. You need to put good weapons around him. We know that Tony Pollard is above average, right? We know Calvin Ridley is a good receiver. We know Hopkins is a good receiver. You put these good players around a young quarterback, you will know very, very quickly whether Will Levis is the guy or not, right? So
yeah, yeah, you will.
it's good because it kind of jumpstarts the rebuild if they needed to, right? There a lot of these are front loaded contracts, so they're getting a lot of the money out of the way early. So I like it a lot. I really do, but I can see the suspicions on it. Like, yeah, it's a long shot that they're going to make the Super Bowl, but if Levis can be the guy, man, right away whether he's going to be or not. So,
Right.
Ridley draft capital wise, what do you think he's worth right now in terms of draft capital? He's hard, man.
He's hard. I mean, would you rather have him or Amari Cooper?
Ridley.
Really? Well, I think I would rather have Amari Cooper. Like I know what I'm gonna get, and
he's in the 201 to 202 pick range.
Yeah, and I don't think I would give that for Ridley personally.
Like Christian Kirk or Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson or Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen. Like these are the guys, the receivers going around him. Tajay Spears. Like I think he's just being very undervalued right now because of Tennessee.
Fair. I mean, right, and I don't disagree with that. I'd probably I think like a 204. I think is probably where 204 to 206. I mean
he's valued at 201. I would be willing to do that. Like I'd rather have Calvin Ridley than Brian Thomas Jr. just because I know how good Ridley is, and you got him for 4 years potentially, as long as he doesn't bet his way out of it, right? So,
right. Well, and another note with Ridley, and Tennessee, I think it's interesting that they signed Ridley to a 4-year monster deal and wouldn't sign AJ Brown to a 4-year monster deal.
I get that. It's a different regime.
It's wild.
It's a different regime.
I know it is. But like
it's a different. It's even a different
different mindset too.
No, different. Even a different front office personnel, like ownership wise, they replaced who it was that was running the team a couple years ago from a ownership standpoint. So I understand this, and I think this regime would have paid AJ Brown in a heartbeat, but it's a different regime. That last decision literally got that last regime fired. So,
it did. 100% did. Yeah.
So I do agree with you. It is funny, but yeah. So Darnell Mooney. So yeah, Calvin Ridley, I'm willing to spend up to the 110. I'd rather have Rome Odunze for the upside and the youth versus Ridley.
Absolutely.
But
100%.
I'd rather have Ridley than Brian Thomas because I do think that there's that tier break there. So that's how I kind of value him right now. Darnell Mooney goes 3 years to Atlanta, $39 million. Decent contract, second wide receiver contract. I think he'll be relevant for fantasy. He'll be interesting. Like he's a flex wide receiver 3 for me.
Yeah.
We've seen sparks from Darnell Mooney in the past, but when you have Kyle Pitts, you've got Drake London to take the pressure off.
And Bijan Robinson as well.
And you have a very, very good deep thrower in Kirk Cousins. Like, I could see Darnell Mooney having very good splash games, but he's more of a best ball receiver than a weekly roster receiver 100%. For me.
100%. Yep, agreed.
So, pick-wise, mid-second, but I'd rather have Xavier Worthy than Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. I'm not giving up a lot for Mooney. Yeah. It'd be a late second for me.
I'm willing to be wrong on this, and obviously, I really like Kirk Cousins. Agreed. I think he's going to feed Mooney. I just don't think it's going to be very consistent, and he's going to be very frustrating for fantasy because of his skill set specifically.
Agreed. And it's going to be just like the production that we got out of this next player that we're going to talk about.
Gabe Davis goes from Buffalo to Jacksonville. Same contract, 3 years, $39 million. I like this a lot, personally. Like, I don't see why people are that down on it. They lost Calvin Ridley. They have Christian Kirk. Calvin Ridley should have been in Christian Kirk's role. the whole time. Like
100%. Yeah.
now Gabe Davis comes into the Calvin Ridley role for this offense that Calvin Ridley was not really well suited to run. Like if that makes sense. Like
no, it does.
People do not like Gabe Davis, and that's fine. I don't think Gabe Davis is going to be a top 12 receiver. I don't really care. He's going to be a wide receiver 2, in my opinion, like probably low end, probably, 18 to 24, somewhere in that range. I would not be shocked, on a per game basis. He might go a little bit lower, but everyone's saying, well, he went from Josh Allen to Trevor Lawrence. He went from the best quarterback to not the best quarterback. Yeah. And that there was games where he literally got no targets, guys. What do you want from him on that?
Right.
There was a game where he had 11 targets, and then the next week he had 0 targets. Like, that's not him. That's a game plan specific thing. So that's just bad game planning. And what we do know about Doug Peterson is he will game plan this guy open, and he will get him open. So I like Gabe Davis. I do think he's probably going to be inconsistent like Darnell Mooney. But if it was me, I want Gabe Davis over Darnell Mooney easily. And Gabe Davis, man,
I 100% agree with that.
Gabe Davis is being so devalued. It's nuts. Like Calvin Ridley is bad. He's like wide receiver 39. Gabe Davis is, I'm looking for him right now. I'm just going to see if I can find him. Gabe Davis is wide receiver 57. 57.
That's wild.
He's valued at the 208 to 209. Same value as, let's see, Xavier Leggett, Devontae Walker, DeAndre Hopkins, Cortland Sutton, the 208, Sam Howell in a super flex, Zach Moss. Zach Moss might also be extremely undervalued, I'm just saying. This probably hasn't caught up yet, but like we're talking about a guy that has top 24 potential. He's only 25. What are we doing here? Like, he's 25, guys. I get it.
Right.
I get it. He's frustrating to own, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, he's more of a best ball guy, and I do agree with you. I'd much rather have Gabe Davis than Mooney. I think he could be really interesting with Lawrence, but
yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, it's a quarterback downgrade, but it is what it is.
It's not a terrible downgrade. It's not terrible.
I mean, it's not.
Josh Allen was
horrible, but
dude, last year Josh Allen, like everyone loves to tout Josh Allen. He made a lot of stupid mistakes last year, like from a passing perspective, right? And Josh Allen for fantasy,
he was trying to play a lot of hero ball last year.
It was dumb.
I agree.
Like it was dumb.
I agree.
But yes, in terms of an arm strength, yes, it's a downgrade. In terms of a decision making, I don't think it's much of a difference. So, in a game plan specific, focus for this offense, I think he's going to be just fine. So, buy it if you want, but for those prices, dude, I'm going to be buying for sure. Sure. All right, last few guys here. Curtis Samuel goes to Buffalo, 3-year, $24 million, replaces Gabe Davis essentially.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
I don't like this.
Really. Well,
no.
I probably know more about Curtis Samuel than you do because
Dude,
he went to
Ohio
State.
He's been in the NFL for like 8 years. I know
forever.
enough.
It feels like it's been forever. He's more of a he's more of a gadget guy. He is.
That's the problem because that's everybody on Buffalo except for Diggs is a gadget guy. Like
I know. I don't disagree, but I know he's fast. I know I like Samuel.
He fits what they've been doing.
He fits what they do. The only problem is if he can stay on the field.
Yeah, that and if I just don't think he'll have any fantasy relevance. That's the problem. Like
I think he's going to be good in best ball like the last two guys we've talked about, but
he had some sneaky good performances last year with Washington, but again, it was when he stayed healthy and yeah, I mean at this point in Samuel's career, we've not been able to see that consistently. So yeah, I'm not excited. I don't think it's that good, but if people want to be excited about it, feel free. I'd be a seller on him, but yeah, value-wise, would you rather have Curtis Samuel or Gabe Davis?
Gabe Davis.
Yeah. Would you rather have Samuel or Mooney? Mooney.
Probably barely Mooney.
Yeah. Barely, but yeah. So, again, I'm not really investing much in Curtis Samuel. That tells you guys anything there. A few other players here. Devin Duvernay signed with Jacksonville, 2-year, $8.5 million. He's the Gabe Davis killer. Yeah, okay. Good luck, guys. Devontae Parker signed a 1 year with Philly for $5 million. Dude just cannot. He's gotten so much money that he does not deserve.
He just gets a lot of money and he can't get open.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Those are right. Yeah.
Noah Brown re-signed with the Houston Texans. Brandon Powell, Trent Sherfield, Jalen Reagor came back to the Patriots for a vet minimum.
Golly
so,
gee.
Yeah.
Golly gee.
So that's pretty much it from a wide receiver standpoint. A few guys that are still outstanding. You've got Hollywood Brown. You've now got Mike Williams from the Chargers that got cut. So
and Mike Thomas as well.
Yeah, and Mike Thomas. So if you guys were waiting
OBJ
on
as well.
I don't really care.
I do.
But yeah, there's a few guys out there. Hollywood's probably the biggest one. Everyone is.
Agreed.
He wants to go to Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes restructured his contract. So if it happens, I would not be shocked. And if it does happen, his value is going to skyrocket. So if you want Hollywood Brown, get him now before his value skyrockets. You have about like a day and a half. If he signs anywhere else, like the Patriots should really be bringing him in. But if he goes to Kansas City, man, his value is just going to be nuts.
No, I agree.
All right, tight ends, last position here. There's a couple interesting signings. We'll talk about them quickly. Colby Parkinson signs a 3-year, $22.5 million contract with the Rams. This was on, dude. These Seattle tight ends, man, all getting paid like well.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting for fantasy because, okay, so obviously the last couple years, Seattle, they have literally given these guys 33% of the snaps. Colby Parkinson played 30%. Noah Fant played 30%. Will Disley played 30% of the snaps. All three of them. All three of them just re-signed. Parkinson goes 3 years, 22.5 to the Rams. Fant goes back to Seattle, 2 years, $21 million. Got the biggest bag out of all of these guys. And then Will Disley goes 3 years to the Chargers for $14 million, which is interesting because it basically, in my mind, puts them out of the Brock Bowers conversation.
I would agree.
Which is going to be interesting for fantasy. Let's talk about these guys as a 3-pack here quickly. Which one would you rather roster for fantasy football?
I would rather have Noah Fant.
I agree. I think the Seattle not having the other two is going to make him very interesting.
It's a problem in LA. Like they already have Cooper Kupp. They have Puka. And then I think they probably have Tyler. Is Tyler Higbee still on their roster?
I can't remember. I think he might have been a free agent.
Yeah. So. Like he has other people that he's competing with to get targets. I feel he's more of a run blocking.
He's very good run blocker. Very
yes.
good run blocker. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. But I'm kind of with you. I don't care too much about Colby Parkinson, but they paid him a decent amount of money, so he could have sneaky good value. Sneaky good.
Right.
We always know.
I don't think it's good. Yeah.
Stafford always did go to the tight end when he was in Detroit, not really so much in McVay's system. So we'll see what they do there. But I like a lot of what the Rams did. They really beefed up this offensive line, and Parkinson is a very good addition. He's also only 25 years old. So, he's a young guy. He can definitely improve for sure. So just a name to keep out there. Not somebody you really want to go out and get. Noah Fant, are you willing to give up anything for Noah Fant?
Probably not a whole lot. I mean, I
mid-second, late second.
Probably like a mid-second. I wouldn't give a whole lot for him. Unfortunately, like we know what we got. He's right now he's going in between like the 307 and 308.
Yeah, and that's where a late second. I feel like you could get him for a late second, and
you probably could
entertain that at least. They paid him decent money. 2 years, $21 million, 10.5 per year is good tight end money. And on top of that, again, when Noah Fant was given an opportunity in Seattle, it was good. The problem was he only got 30% of the snaps with Pete Carroll. So the new head coach comes over from Baltimore where they like to use Mark Andrews. So there's some good parallels there. He's worth stashing, in my opinion, for a late second.
I agree.
You're talking about Jatavian Sanders, the rookie, or Noah Fant. I'd rather probably take Noah Fant at that point, right? So
yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, I would much rather have the devil I know in Noah
Right.
Fant.
He's not a
So
bad player. He's just
he's
not.
he's not.
He's not
He
the
just
first round
hasn't
talent that he was drafted to
was
be.
drafted as.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Yep.
Will Disley going over the Chargers.
I literally
Interesting,
do
but
not. I don't care for what they're no.
for
I
what they're
don't
going to
really.
be
I mean,
doing,
yeah,
it's
yeah. It's for
scary.
what like it's gonna be like 67,000% running. They're gonna do. They're just gonna ground and pound,
Disley is a very good
and
run
yeah,
blocker. Again,
he is, and and they actually just signed Hunter Henry as well. No, not Hunter Henry.
no,
It
we
is
re-signed Hunter Henry. Get it right.
it was Hayden Hurst. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember seeing that earlier.
It was two H's. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not exciting there.
No, it's not.
People are excited, but because of what he did a couple years ago with Russell Wilson. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Gerald Everett goes over to Chicago. I don't really care too much about this one. I think Cole Kmet's going to be fine. People are kind of downgrading. If you can buy Cole Kmet for a late second, again, I would probably do that. Cole Kmet, I think, is going to be sneaky kind of good. Charlie Warner, don't care. 3 years, $12 million with the Atlanta Falcons. He's a blocking tight end.
A blocking tight end. Yep.
He replaces Jonnu Smith, who goes to Miami for 2 years, $8.5 million. Jonnu's kind of interesting. I'm not gonna lie. He's worth a stash in my opinion.
Yes,
we saw he was
agree.
fantasy relevant in Atlanta last year with Arthur Smith. Now you've got Tua in this whole offense. I'm low-key interested.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I wouldn't spend a lot on him. I mean, honestly, he might be on your waiver wire.
Right.
There's a possibility.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Harrison Bryant resign. He signs a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Don't really care there. Noah Brown Pharaoh Brown, not Noah Brown. Signs with the Seahawks. This is a run blocker, dude. This is the guy that's going to be replacing those other two that they lost.
Yep.
That's why I like Noah Fant a little bit more, man. They're going to use him as a receiver in this offense. So
more of a pass catcher. Yeah.
Yep. Going to be interesting. Mike Gesicki goes over to the Cincinnati Bengals. We re-signed Hunter Henry. It's not showing up on Spotrac for whatever reason, but I think it's because it was an extension, not a free agent signing.
Actual free agent signing.
Yeah, and that was a 3-year decent deal. I think $30 million. So he got 3 years, $10 million average. I like that a lot, no matter who the quarterback is. If we do get Fields, like I'm hoping that we trade like a 3rd round pick for Fields and then just trade back from 3. I would be so freaking happy right now if we did that. Yeah. But whether it's a rookie or whatever, I think Hunter Henry's low key underrated in fantasy, and
he is. I agree. I think he's good. He's serviceable. He's someone that you can half rely on most weeks, and for the tight end position, that's really what you want.
Right. So. That's pretty much it from a fantasy relevant tight end perspective.
Mike Gesicki, man. Mike Gesicki, come on.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah.
No, I
agree. Is there anybody else you wanted to talk about?
Nope.
All right, I'm just looking through the free agent list of people left to sign. I don't see anybody very interesting. Receivers, there's still quite a few names out there. Again, it's been slow for the receivers. Mike Williams, Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Boyd is another name to keep in your mind. DJ Chark, Harris Campbell, some of these guys that have been around for a while, Hollywood Brown. But yeah, not a great free agent class. And then you got the rookie class that's coming in, and it's going to be amazing yet again. So the one last guy that's going to be a little bit interesting is going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones, just to keep an eye on him where he lands. He's young, only 25. So not many young receivers are out there on the free agency market. So just keep an eye on him and see if he lands anywhere interesting. So, all right, that said, that is the free agency recap. We'll do some videos, follow up for Mike Williams or Hollywood or any of these other really big signings. You've got the Fields trade if that happens, or if they keep him, we'll do a video on that as well. Is there any last thoughts, Dale?
Send it on home.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you can, please follow us one last time on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale, or at FF After Dark. Podcast is available one last time on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Google, Apple. We appreciate you guys listening. And if you can, like I said at the top of the video, we appreciate you guys. We can't grow without you. So, if you can help us, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. It just gets the podcast out there to more people, and it helps us to grow. And again, the comments, we just want to hear from you guys. We love hearing from you guys and answering comments. So it always brightens our day to hear from you guys. So again, just take a couple minutes to take a quick, like 10 word comment. I don't really care. Anything. We just like to hear from you guys. So until next time, thank you guys so much for listening, and have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?